Thank you for tuning in to Roll Call. The movie you selected is Shall We Dance?
Hey everyone, welcome to Roll Call, the show where two childless millennials gush over their favorite actors and follow an actor's journey from their very beginnings, humble beginnings, all the way through their blockbuster hits.
Yes, because let's face it, we miss Blockbuster.
We sure do. And Bria, I don't know about you, because I'm full-fledged Tucci gang. I'm gonna keep all the other actors and actresses that I had in the original pot, but I'm replacing Jennifer's name with Stanley Tucci for next season. I'm throwing his name in the ring, but just like we have a Tucci gang, I think we should maybe have some kind of a Blockbuster gang where we just wear butter yellow and Dodger blue.
And you gotta have a Blockbuster card.
Yeah. Oh,
obviously.
That's it. Yeah. To like show how deep is your love with this gang, you have to have a Blockbuster card to like get into any of our parties.
Yes, just like my discussion about my black card. Like, Simone, I'm gonna take your Blockbuster card, okay? You're out the gang.
Love it.
Oh my God. It's funny because when Stanley Tucci came on for the briefest moment in the beginning, because you just kind of see him, and I was like, Tucci gang. So absolutely. What's up, guys? I'm Bria, and I've come to the realization that sometimes we just have to let movies movie, and more on that later. But
okay. Oh, color me intrigued. And I'm Simone, and I'm so sorry in advance. Richard Gere is the co-star of this movie today, and I can never say his name right. So you're going to be hearing a lot of iterations of Gruyere, like the cheese, Gere. Like you're going to be hearing a whole gambit of it. So sorry. Not sorry.
In today's episode, we'll chat about Jennifer Lopez in the movie Shall We Dance? So let's take a trip back to October 15th, 2004. I have lots. Simone gave me the beautiful pressure of trying to capture a good chunk of 2004 in this episode, since our next film will be in 2005. So I'm going to go through general pop culture stuff and scandals and pause, and we could talk about some of that stuff, and then we'll do music and then movies, and then we'll talk about some of that stuff. Excellent. All right, because I feel like I get long-winded, so I'm trying to improve that.
I mean, it's easy to do that with pop culture.
Yes, so I mean,
give yourself some grace there.
I'm sure as listeners who have stuck with us have listened, they've been like, man, these pop culture segments are getting long. I thought this was about movies. All right, so 2004, the big event every 4 years, the Olympics are in Greece this year, and we have a historic Olympian, Michael Phelps, wins his first 6 medals at this Olympics. Chef's kiss. Lance Armstrong wins a historic 6 Tour de France, which also means we were all probably rocking yellow Livestrong bracelets at this time. And we all know now that Homeboy was doping, and therefore all of his Tour de France titles were stripped. So in other sports news, the Red Sox win their first World Series since 1918. So shout out to Jessica, our friend. She's a diehard Boston sports fan. In 2004, which ironically, the Friends cast just got together for a reunion in 2021, which I feel like a lot of stuff that we bring up is like just coming back all the time, Jennifer included. But,
right.
But the Friends finale aired in 2004 with 52 million people watching.
Wow.
Yes. In tech, we have the glorious, beautiful Razr cell phone, and I missed the opportunity because I still have mine and I could have pulled it out, but
Oh, that would have been good.
Simone, did you have a razor?
Yes, I did. That's where I was going with that one. I had a gold one because
Mm.
Leah had a pink one, I had a gold one, and that was like the crown jewel of my like scene world was my gold razor. Fastest texture in the West of like clickety click 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 click.
Yes, I mean the pink razor was for bad bitches. So shout out to you, Leah, because
She is a bad bitch.
I did not. I had a dark gray razor,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Like
I
charcoal.
graduated to the chocolate, and then I went back to the razor because the chocolate, like the buttons were trash. So
Yeah.
that phone held me down for a good chunk of. I got it as a middle school graduation present, actually.
Gold razors deserve their time because what people don't like right now it's either you have an iPhone or an Android, that's it. But in the mid thousands there were like cell phone battle wars of like, do you have a razor, do you have a sidekick, do you have
Yes.
a BlackBerry? Like BlackBerry was for like grown up business bitches, but like
Yeah.
the
Palm
teen
Pilots.
yeah, exactly. Like there were kind of these like battles of like what your phone said about you. And honestly, I think you nailed it. If you had a pink razor, you were a bad bitch.
I want to say that is very true about like the cell phone kind of battles, because cell phones were really creative then. Like we
Yeah.
graduated from like the standard brick Nokia phone, which it shrunk a little bit from the first iteration. And so that was cute. And then there were just, copies of versions of that. But then we got phones like, do you remember the jukebox? Like it like slid open and it was
Yes.
supposed to be like an MP3 player cell phone.
Yeah.
And then we started getting like large keyboards to compete with the Sidekick. If you weren't on T-Mobile, that was another thing. You could only have a Sidekick if you were on T-Mobile.
Yeah.
And then we started getting large keyboards because texting became a big thing. So you had like all kinds of different iterations of that and trying to make it cool and colorful and shit. So yes, cell phones from this time deserve their own podcast. All right. So, in other tech news, the Nintendo DS is launched. And I'm just going to go through this list of tech shit.
Okay.
Bluetooth is like in its first iterations. HD TVs are now a big thing. DVRs breaking away from appointment viewing TV to the overwhelming surplus we have today with streaming. Skype starts in 2004. Satellite radio is now a thing. Facebook launched only to Harvard students, and now we're in the hellscape that they've created. Mm-hmm. And last but not least, we have some celebrity news. In 2004, for all our Bay Area people and our friends and family listening, Mac Dre, Bay Area legend, passes away in 2004 after getting gunned down in, I believe, Kentucky. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge hyphy Bay Area rap listener, but I know what I know just because I'm a native and I'm proud of it. So no shame in that game. But yes. Any thoughts on hyphy and Mac Dre?
So that's something that I'm actually really proud of being from like the Bay Area, that we kind of had this movement of rap and a huge pride in coming from the Bay Area. And we had a lot of really, I don't know, music. I think it's excellent music, but that's also because I think it's a very nostalgic period of time where I had kind of bit the bullet and was like, all right, fine, I do like rap. But once Bay Area rap became really big and I started to like go to school dances, I was like, all right, tell me when to go. Like I'm down for it. And just the fact of like the hyphy movement in general, I think is really funny. And when you go to, I don't know, out of town events, if they ever do play songs from a certain area, like you can find a Bay Area person from across the room if they do. And that's the fizz. Like
I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, I feel like my black card and my Bay Area card are up on the table, like maybe getting snatched. But at this time, previously, like I said, I was very much into the OC. I lived in a very suburban area, so like local rap was not on my radar besides school dances and stuff, and that's why I know what I know. But all right, so some big I guess big scandals and celebrity news. Jennifer Hudson comes 7th on American Idol, which, I mean, 4 years later, she wins an Oscar for Dreamgirls. So
which sucks. But you know what? Whatever, because that could have ultimately ruined her career. I think it benefited her for the best. I love Jennifer Hudson.
I will tell you what this Black household and probably most Black households thought, that it was definitely racial.
Yeah.
Because that episode when Jennifer Hudson gets eliminated from American Idol, you have Fantasia Barrino, Jennifer Hudson, and LaToya London in the bottom 3, which if you're Black, it's like red flags, like what the fuck?
Yeah,
because they were really, really, really good, like out of everybody. And so that was like a red flag. And then on top of this, like whole like, oh, there were like outages or like, you know, a lot of votes didn't come in from like her usual area or whatever. It's like Black people love a good conspiracy theory. So they were like, yeah, we call bullshit. But I agree. I think that's the biggest lesson I learned from that, is that winning a reality competition is not always your best bet. All right, that's just the first scandal. In other singing news, Ashley Simpson gets busted for lip syncing on SNL.
I know, she does the hoedown out of there. She does the hoedown out of there, and she goes, and she tried to fucking blame her band. She tried to default the blame onto other people rather than being like, yeah, you know what, I did it.
And like that kind of ruined her career. Like after that, like we didn't really hear from her after that. And I liked like Pieces of Me and all that
Thank
stuff.
you so much for saying that, because that song's a bop. I will sing it. That is one of my go-to karaoke songs. It is like perfectly within my vocal range. So
I mean, that long note, like
it's a great song, and it sucks that was the one that she was lip singing to.
Oh man, but like who knows what could have been. Also, I just want to say at that time, this is why I wasn't listening to Mac Dre.
Mac Dre, who? Ashley Simpson, yes.
But at that time, she had a reality show, Riding the Wave of Jessica Simpson and Nick and Newlyweds. And she's dating Ryan Cabrera, who I also loved his song On the Way Down and True. So magical. Okay, so in other news, Britney Spears marries Jason Alexander in Las Vegas. Then that same year, after she gets that marriage annulled, she marries the legendary Kevin Federline, aka K-Fed, who we obviously have to point out his nickname is a play on J-Lo's nickname. But yes, so what a time to be alive.
Wow. What a time.
And in other Britney adjacent news, probably the biggest thing that happened in pop culture in 2004, Justin Timberlake, in an effort to upstage his ex-girlfriend and Madonna and Christina Aguilera's VMA performance, decides to introduce a little risque option in his Super Bowl performance, which fucks up Janet Jackson's legacy and career. And to this day, we still do not forgive you, Justin.
I don't care how much you apologize, Justin. It is just, to quote the great JoJo, it's just a little too late. It's a little too late. I mean, yeah, it sucks. And that's where we also get the coin term wardrobe malfunction.
Yes, and YouTube. So
oh, indeed. Yeah.
A small thing of glory, I guess, from it. But yes, forever fuck Justin on that ordeal. I still listen to his music, I will say, but yes, fuck you. So now that's a great segue into music of 2004. And yes. I told you this, that I noticed there was a lot of hip hop and R&B, lots of one-hit wonders to me. But 4 albums I want to talk about. Confessions, we talked about that briefly, and I was like, oh man. Mm-hmm. So I had to mention that again because it deserves it. That bitch went like diamond, and that was unheard of. That was very rare to happen, and probably hasn't happened since because of the way music is bought now. But yes, Confessions came out. Destiny's Child's last album, Destiny Fulfilled, came out, and love that album. I think that's actually their best album.
Is that the album we get Soulja?
Yes.
Okay.
I want a soldier.
Where he at? Where he at?
Also, Maroon 5. So their album did not come out in 2004. It actually came out, I think, a year or two before, but their big songs, This Love, She Will Be Loved, Sunday Morning, were released in 2004, therefore catapulting them to the obnoxious band they are now. In my opinion, Songs About Jane is their last good album. I will say that I haven't really listened to any other albums since their second album, but their singles don't make me want to listen to anything either. So there's that. But yes, go listen to Songs About Jane to get the goodness that was Maroon 5. Sierra's debut album, Goodies, comes out, which is like
my goodies.
So
my
many
goodies.
bops.
My
so
goodies.
many bops.
My goodies.
Exactly. 1 2 Step. I listened to it today. It's amazing. I love Sierra.
Shake it like Jelly, make the boys say hello because they know I'm rocking the beat.
So let's get into movies of 2004. Big movies. We have, of course, nothing else but another Harry Potter movie, this time The Prisoner of Azkaban, which I think is like the best movie of this series. Amazing sequel, Shrek 2.
Electric Boogaloo. That was a good movie.
The classic film Mean Girls is thrust into our lives in 2004.
And we will willingly take that thrust. I mean, that's one that the Gen Zers go back and watch. And I feel like that was the closest thing to Clueless we've had since Clueless.
Absolutely.
Hot take on that. But in addition, like Clueless, Mean Girls has withstood the test of time. I had like a group of students who were quote unquote the plastics. Like they all wore little pinky.
Did
pink
they wear
stuff.
pink on Wednesdays?
Not like, I mean, that was like their Halloween outfit. But I think also too, when the Mean Girls musical came out, they were very inspired by that too.
We also get Pixar amazing film, The Incredibles, which we just got the sequel to a couple years ago. So
yeah, when do we got that? Yeah, probably about 4 years ago.
2 more sequels. Kill Bill Volume 2. Spider-Man 2. Of course, we're going to get more Spider-Mans because they just don't stop after this. And then another pop culture favorite, Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, Bria.
Simone, are you going to eat your tots? I had a shirt that said that, and I had the vote for Pedro's shirt. Those were hot.
Those were
in the streets.
Hot. You don't even know they were selling like hotcakes. So again, maybe it's the nostalgia, maybe it's something else, but Kevin and I had rewatched that last year in the middle of the Panini press because we needed a reason to laugh and to like enjoy life again. Yeah. And they nailed it. Napoleon Dynamite is a safe, funny movie, and in my opinion is still very hilarious.
So finally, pertaining to Shall We Dance?
Okay, yes.
Everybody, movies that came out in October 2004 when Shall We Dance came out. The first Saw movie.
I will give a 1,000,000,000% chef's kiss to that movie. That twist ending, I hadn't been fucked up like that since The Sixth Sense, and I still feel like that movie holds up. I own all of the Saw movies on DVD, if that says anything about it.
But okay, so we have Friday Night Lights, which I haven't ever seen, but it's very popular. It became a TV show. Finding Neverland. Okay, here's the other horror movie, The Grudge.
Yes, that scene where the hand is reaching out of Sarah Michelle Gellar's hair in the shower is one of the reasons why I don't keep my eyes closed for too long in the shower. It's a great movie. Also, I mean, the Japanese original, perfect. Like, you always want to see the original before you ever see an American remake.
All right. So like we mentioned earlier, The Incredibles came out. So it actually came out in October. And then a big Oscar movie, Ray, came out in October 2004, which absolutely makes sense. Oscar buzz, Thanksgiving movie, holiday movie, all that jazz. So I will gladly toss you the baton and ask you, what did it cost to make this movie, and how much did it make?
Releasing movies has to be a strategic thought, right? Like you obviously have some kind of a deadline, but a lot of movies sit in the can for a long time before producers, directors decide to actually release it because they can think on when it's going to be the most successful. I find it interesting.
Look at COVID times. Like, people were,
a lot of people put that off, or they just said, fuck it, we're going to put it on HBO.
Or they weren't happy that they were putting it on streaming sites. Like, who's that director who's like, absolutely not, this is not going on streaming sites? I forget, but I want to say it was for Tenet, but I can't remember for sure.
Oh, that makes, I can see a bougie bitch like Chris Nolan wanting to not say no. But okay, October release for a movie like this, I find is very interesting. As you had mentioned, we had 2 big banger Halloween scary movie smash style movies. We also have Ray. Those are big, big movies. So for a romantic movie to be released in October is an interesting choice. Despite that, this movie did really well. So it had a budget of $50 million, which, again, we've talked about this before. I would say majority of that is probably going to the cast because the sets weren't very elaborate. A lot of the sets took place either at a house or in a makeshift dance studio or ballroom, right? So we're not really getting a lot of like huge productions there. So I'm assuming a lot of this budget was going into this A+ all-star cast, even including Ja Rule ? We have a lot to unpack.
We were talking about that.
So in opening weekend, this movie was released October 15th. So in the closing of October 17th, after its opening weekend, it made only 11.6 million. But after its total running with domestic gross, came in at 170 million. So it made 120 mil back. No bad.
Richard Gere still has it. 15 years after Pretty Woman, still got it.
And is one of those people who, kind of like George Clooney, I think, because he rayed early, has kind of looked the same over the last couple years.
Like, Richard Gere is like the first George Clooney in my notes. He probably isn't.
I agree with that. I mean, at least for like what we associate with, right? Like, I agree with that. So with how this movie was released and when this movie was released, shall we get into Lil Raj?
We shall. What's up, Lil Raj? What's Lil Raj got to say?
Lil Raj gives Shall We Dance 3 stars, which is interesting. I didn't know this until doing research on this movie, but this is an American remake, similarly to what we were talking about with The Grudge. This originally was a Japanese movie that was made in 1996 with the exact same plot line and the exact same title. Bria, I linked the trailer for the movie into our shared doc that like talks about our research for it. So if you didn't get around to watching it, that's okay. Because it's
the Japanese movie?
The trailer for it.
Oh, dang it. How did I miss that? It's
exactly the same, though, as the trailer for this movie, which I know we'll talk about later. So Lil Raj gives this a solid 3 stars. And you know what? I agree with a lot of what he has to say about it. He wants to retitle this Right in Step, is that it's like kind of a step towards the right direction for a movie that's pretty formulaic in nature. He really feels like the plot isn't necessarily the point for this, but it's so much the chemistry between Gere and Lopez, which we'll also get into because this movie really isn't about Gere and Lopez. It's more about Gere, or John Clark, as his character's name is. Like, it's not really so much about this lust, which there is, don't get me wrong, but it's not so much about the plot as it is about the chemistry between a lot of the characters. He says it's not cutting edge. The plot is very predictable. You'd be able to predict it, right? Like, but the fact that Paulina, who is Jennifer Lopez's character, the fact that she is not interested in Richard Gere, John Clark, is what saves this movie in Lil Raj's eyes. Because he said if Paulina was interested, or if there was some kind of infidelity or some kind of breach, then it would be a completely different movie, first off. And then it would have kind of ruined whatever that outcome was going to be, whether it be they won some kind of ballroom dancing championship, or he has to now keep this from his wife. Like it's two very different movies with different feelings involved, right? So he feels like because Paulina, Jennifer Lopez, served as a character to bring out, as a trope, to kind of bring out these understanding, connecting feelings that this man obviously has suppressed, that's what made this movie work. Roger actually likes the Japanese version more than this, and he liked it so much, he has something called an overlooked film festival, which to be honest, I'd like to do more research about, because I don't know if this is something he hosts privately at the Ebert Estates, or if it's like something a la Sundance where it's just like smaller films. But he said, I actually really enjoyed the Japanese version more than the American version, so much more that I had invited that film and cast to be a part of my overlooked film festival. But he used the word "my" as if it was some kind of like a possessive thing. So.
Yeah, maybe it's like a small thing he has with like friends and family and like industry friends and stuff, not necessarily like a big thing.
Which
That's a great
love.
idea for a
That's
film festival, though.
Yes.
Blow that up, Mrs. Ebert. Like, get some funding.
Yeah. What, her name was Chaz, right?
Yes, I believe so. Chaz, if you're listening.
Mrs. Chaz, if you're listening, invite us.
Maybe we could help take it over. I don't know how to run a film festival, but
we roll up
maybe
wearing
we
like
live podcast.
Could you imagine we roll up wearing like Letterman jackets, but on the back of it says Lil Raj on it?
I thought you were going to say like butter yellow, like in our Blockbuster game.
I mean, that too. We're wearing like a velvet royal blue felt, because Letterman jackets are like it's like leather and that like felt.
I have one. Yeah.
So the leather piece would be the butter yellow, the felt piece would be that royal blue, and on the back it says Lil Raj.
Anyways, back to Lil Raj. So I am surprised by the star amount, honestly.
Did you think it was higher? That it was?
I thought at minimum it would be 3.5. I don't think he would have gave it 4, but I'm surprised it's like a solid 3. But I agree with his points. I was trying to look for the Japanese version of the movie. And I think in my search, I'm pretty sure I saw the trailer, but just was like so focused and be like, where can I watch the movie? That I didn't even bother to be like, oh, well, at least I could watch the trailer. But once I found out that it was a remake, I was like, oh, I need to like figure out what that's about. So totally agree with a lot of his points about that. But Simone, how many pumps of butter are you giving Shall We Dance?
I agree almost wholeheartedly with what Lil Raj has to say about this film. And I'll get more into what I didn't like about it once we get into the summary and the plot and the acting performances. Hot take. I hope this doesn't ruin our friendship. I liked this way more than Made in Manhattan.
I knew you were going to say that.
I really enjoyed watching this film, and I don't know if it was because there wasn't that like romance piece to it.
Yeah.
Sure, there are some things that I can definitely do without, which we'll talk about if this movie were to ever be remade. But I think that Ebert's points were dead on. It's predictable, but not cringy enough to hate it. The side characters were big enough that they weren't completely lost, and I did like a lot of the side characters. maybe it's just because I fucking love Stanley Tucci. But yeah, no, I would do a half pump more. I would give this a solid 3.5 pumps.
Nice. I agree with the 3.5 pumps. Your hot take on Made in Manhattan is throwing me a bit.
Sorry.
But not really. I knew you were going to say that when you're like, hold on to your seat. I can understand why. And I think for me, Made in Manhattan, I've seen that movie before. It's a little nostalgic to me. So I'm giving it a lot of leeway in that way. So honestly, I do think this movie is a stronger. I don't even think this is a romantic comedy, but I just think this movie is stronger than Made in Manhattan. Yes, especially plot wise and all that stuff. So I don't disagree with you there. But I'm gonna give it 3.5, and I think part of that is the cast.
Yes.
So
this movie has a surprising cast.
Let's do a little summary of the movie.
All right, I'm gonna give you the off the dome version that I gave Kevin the other night on our walk, which was a lawyer who has everything he wants in his life, a beautiful wife. Shout out Susan Sarandon.
Shout out. Legend.
A beautiful wife, 2 kids, a nice house, yet he still earns for something. He can't quite put his finger on it, but he just knows that there's something in his life that's missing. And on his commute home every day, he passes by a dance studio. And perchance, he looks out the window, and what does he see but a mysterious young woman longingly gazing out the window, which intrigues him. After nights and nights on his long commute home, he finally decides to take a chance and get off the L train and see what this is all about. And so he finds himself at Mitzi's dance studio. And at Mitzi's dance studio, he just kind of signs himself up to take beginner ballroom dancing classes. Was it because he was interested in Jennifer Lopez? Yes, it was. John Clark, the successful lawyer, ends up signing himself up to take and commit to 8 weeks of ballroom dancing classes. He keeps this hidden from his family while he uncovers the truth of what actually makes him happy, which is dancing. During this time, he gets signed up to commit to do a competition. So, will he win the ballroom competition, or will he have 2 left feet? You're just going to have to watch and find out for yourself. But if you want the actual summary, despite having
that's amazing. Keep that.
I mean, it's pretty close, right?
Yeah, fuck off this other summary. That's amazing. You had me. I feel like you were so like, if this was a pitch meeting for this movie, you sold the movie to me. I was like, yes, absolutely. Wine and all. But now, so let's get into the lovely cast then,
yes.
because we're itching to talk about some of the cameos, the amazing side characters and actors that are in this movie.
And I haven't come before with a lot of would you rather questions or follow-up questions, but I have 1, 2, at least a good solid 4 questions for you that I think would be fun to talk about. So let's get into it.
Okay, so fun fact that I saw, Tom Hanks was originally attached to this movie. I could see that. I do think Richard Gere and his amazing silver foxness of it all definitely brings something more to it than Tom Hanks would have at this time.
Yeah.
But I could see that happening. Besides that, I am very intrigued by your questions and just your overall enthusiasm about these people. So I'm going to let you run with it and I will chime in and all that stuff.
Got it. Well, it's not necessarily, I mean, some of it's people related, but also, I think the majority of the questions are also plot related, which we'll get into. So Richard Gere is the protagonist of the story. He's John Clark. He's a lawyer. He's very successful. He has a really nice house. He has 2 kids. He has a golden retriever. He has Susan Sarandon for his wife. Like, what more could you want? But the opening of this movie is his birthday, and they're wishing him a happy birthday. And he, they're like getting ready for bed at the end of the night, and she's just like, I feel like you're not happy. Like, what in a box could make you happy? And he doesn't really know how to answer that question.
That's a hard ass question. Like, and I'm sure at that stage in life, like, it's like, what the fuck more do I need? Like,
Exactly. Yeah. And it also kind of got me thinking of like, some of the hardest people, in my opinion, to shop for are men. Because I think
yes.
some women just either know what they want and they'll tell you, or they'll just get it for themselves. But men, especially, if they know they want something, they'll just get it. Okay, so in addition to Richard Gere Cheese, we have Jennifer Lopez, who plays Paulina, who is a part-time student and instructor at the Mitzi's dance studio. Susan Sarandon plays Beverly Clark, Richard Gere's wife. Stanley Tucci Gang, plays a character named Link, who's also a lawyer, a business partner with John Clark, and they kind of met at a funny happen circumstances. Tucci just so happened to be at one of the practice dance nights that John Clark was at, and they were like, "Oh shit, I know you." But so Stanley Tucci is someone that we know of who's bald. He has always worn a bald head when he's natural, but a lot of his characters do not require, but he isn't afraid to rock a wig. Yes. And that's what I really loved about his character too, is that he wore these like really corny, elaborate, like long Fabio style wigs. Yeah. And we also have Bobby Cannavale, who plays Chick, but he's in everything that you can imagine. Richard Jenkins, who plays Divine, Mr. Divine, who is plays the private investigator. Nick Cannon, who is also a private investigator named Scott. He was like the assistant to the main private investigator. Susan Sarandon ends up getting a private investigator because she suspects that her husband's cheating. Lisa Ann Walter, who plays Bobby, another matriarch at the dance studio, and
I was like,
Chessie. Yes, and I loved her character. I think she's really good at playing just outspoken, bold women who just speak what's on their mind. She's fantastic. I wish I could see more of her these days. We also have he plays the other
Omar Benson Miller. He plays Vern.
Yes, Vern. The other dance partner in this kind of like small trio of single men who are either learning how to dance or meet girls or whatever. So it's a really fantastic cast. I mean, every person that comes on screen, you get the notion of like, you do the Leonardo DiCaprio meme of like, oh, I've seen you before. Like, you've seen a movie with all of these people at some point.
Yes, absolutely. Because we also get cameos from none other than J-Lo duet partner Ja Rule. And like you said, Maya, which I was like, what? And Karina Smirnoff. And I just want to point out too, I wrote this down because when I was watching this and I saw her in it, I was like, hold the phone. When did Dancing with the Stars start? And Dancing with the Stars started a year after this movie. And I low-key want to say, like, Shall We Dance might have, like, ignited something because Karina Smirnoff is a pro dancer that was on Dancing with the Stars. I don't think she is anymore, but, like, that's a huge pop culture shift in reality TV.
She was, I mean, definitely, like, an original cast for sure.
Yeah, so
and has won the Mirrorball Trophy.
Yes.
Okay,
but yeah, this cast is like just fire. Like
it is fire. I totally agree, and I can see where the 50 million went to. Yes. So Bria, could you imagine running into an in-law, a parent, a family member on the street and being like, "Oh, hey, I'm actually seeing someone and I've been meaning to ask you if you've been wanting to meet my significant other. Would you like to come out to a club tonight and like meet my new partner?" And then the first time you meet like your parent or a parent figure or family member meets your significant other is at, I don't know, an underground club in New York where Ja Rule is playing? Could you imagine that? Could you imagine a scenario where that exists?
No, I can't because I don't like seeing people I know in public. That's a weird way to introduce someone to your parents.
It is a weird way, and that was one of one scene where I felt like ultimately he ended up going back to the dance studio. But I think, yeah, okay, let's go.
So this is where my opening line comes in.
Okay, yes.
Where I said, sometimes you just have to let movies movie. Okay. Because when I watched this movie and we had talked and we initially were like thinking this was going to be a very short episode, boy, were we wrong, because I'm pretty sure this is like damn near 2 hours. But I had a lot of like questionable like issues, like, is that realistic? Like, that's like a weird, like, why would you not tell your wife that you're dancing? Like, that's not a big thing. Like, she thinks you're out here cheating and you're just dancing, like, and stuff like that. And like, why would you cheer on your dad when he doesn't know you're there and it's a ballroom competition? This isn't a softball game. Like, stuff like that. I was just like, what the fuck? But there's a Movie Web interview that I sent you that Richard Gere and Susan Sarandon did, and they answered a lot of my like questions and issues. And after that, and then I saw a TikTok today too that was like, and Black people love to do this, and I'm sure other people do. I think people in general do. Like, we like will go back and look at stuff and be like, man, this is so questionable. Like, there are all kinds of problems with this plot, this movie, blah, blah, blah. And this person was talking about Love and Basketball, which I love that movie. That was my life story, like written out for me. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, it's like, yeah, a lot of those things in that movie, this movie, you know, don't make ordinary sense. But also a lot of shit in life doesn't make sense. But at the end of the day, it's a movie. Like, it has to get to a certain point. It has to have a resolution. It has to, for the most part, like, and not all movies. That's where you have indie movies and shit like that, where they try to do shit differently and break the rules and stuff. But a movie like this, like Roger Ebert said, is very formulaic. Like, and yeah, you can have some romantic movies or whatever break that formula a little bit, throw in a twist or something. But for the most part, I've learned that movie makers know, like, this shit works, keep giving it to people, you know? Like, that's why we're stuck in this ever-ending Fast and the Furious franchise that won't fucking stop. That's why we keep getting superhero movies. That's why, you know, stuff like that, where it's just like, these things work. People like this stuff. So we're just going to keep giving it to them. And that's movies movieing, like, at the end of the day. So.
Well, that's also, it's movies movieing and movies moving to the times that they are being looked at. Because again, what holds up to 2004 standards might not be what the average moviegoer finds acceptable now. I mean, regardless of like the homophobic dialogue that happens throughout this film is separate. But I think, I don't know if a movie like this could hold up, because that's just not where I think a lot of Americana mindset is right now for seeing a movie. I think we do want more of those big superhero style movies. But at the time, when this movie came out, this was what we wanted. I think Richard, and I think it appealed to different ages of audience, because with Gere and Susan Sarandon, I mean, this is definitely a movie that my parents might have seen on a date night, to have gone single-handedly to see, and then maybe with like Gen Xers to go see this for Jennifer Lopez and some of the other cast, like. And even I didn't see this movie in the theater.
A cute movie. Like,
it's a cute movie.
Night. Like,
it's for a girl.
You know.
Absolutely, I agree. So I think there's things to pick apart about this movie, but I think that for the time that it was released, it ended up working out pretty well, which is, I mean, why I thought of it a lot more highly than some of the
totally. I think too, like, a big thing I took away from that interview too, because I can watch the 1996 version, is like, when I found out that it originally was a Japanese movie, I was like, I definitely feel like that culture plays into why he wasn't forthcoming with him. And so them adapting it, trying to make it American, like, in terms of that translating, it doesn't really work, because that's not a huge thing. But I think how Susan Sarandon and Richard Gere explained it, they explained it in a way that made sense to me, in terms of, like, you know, he feels kind of ashamed, or sometimes to find like yourself and like shit you want to do, you need to be by yourself. And like doing stuff alone has this real like weight to being able to explore without any expectations or anything like that, judgment, all that kind of stuff.
Yes. And I agree with that. I feel like judgment, leering on the side of toxic masculinity, is almost the villain of this movie, because Tucci too, but like Tucci and Gere felt like they couldn't authentically be themselves. It maybe more for Tucci, it was more like, because he would make these comments like, I'm not even gay and I love dancing, and all he wanted,
sequenced outfits.
Yes, and all he wanted to do was he said, all I want to do is like dance under my own name, like without this extra persona in my life. And it got me thinking how many other people don't do what they want to do because they're afraid of judgment, which was one of my like very deep meta follow-up questions. But
I mean, there's tons of stuff. I feel like I was thinking, like, if I traveled, there's tons of stuff I would just try, because like, or if I lived abroad, or just if I moved just from where I live, and not knowing anyone and no one knowing me, like there's tons of stuff I would probably try, because there's no sense of like someone's going to catch me or see me and then assume this or go and tell somebody, and then it becomes this story that's not true, or this narrative that's not mine.
Oh no, I mean, and I totally agree with that. I think that this served as an outlet for both men to find happiness in a place where they didn't feel a lot of judgment. And
that goes for Chick too. Like initially he annoyed me because I was like, why are you assuming he's gay, but you're not assuming Vern's gay? And fucking John Clark is whole ass married, has 2 kids. Like, why are you putting that on him? And it makes sense, he's projecting because he's gay. But I was just like, I don't like this dude.
I mean, the homophobic jokes that were coming from that side were just incredibly cringy. But I also like shout out to John Clark, who never said like, whoa, buddy, I'm not gay, and like folds out his wallet to show his like picture of his wife and kids. Like, he just is like, okay, dude, like he kind of dismisses it, probably because he felt like he was never going to see these people ever again, that this was going to be maybe like a one-off thing. But I kind of like the fact that he never felt like he had to really explain himself, that he was just like, listen, I'm here as a single, I'm here because I'm here. And that he never felt like he had to justify, like, I'm dancing because X, Y, and Z. Although, one of my least favorite parts about this plot is that he was originally taken in to this dance scene because something about Paulina brought him in. And it wasn't because he always had a secret passion for dancing that his like wife dismissed or that his kids made fun of. Like, I had wrote down, like, are you attracted to dancing or are you attracted to Paulina? Because depending on what your answer is, it's a completely different movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why Roger Ebert said that that's what saved the movie. Because in my mind, I'm thinking like Richard Gere at this time, one of the other movies I've seen was Unfaithful, which I've talked about. I love that movie. But I was like, ooh, this might be his like revenge unfaithful movie where he like gets back and like he has the affair and stuff. But I did like that wasn't where that went. And I do understand the criticism of like her being the reason he even goes down this road, but we all have different reasons for doing stuff. And I think men a lot of times are motivated by women, like, and also on TikTok are motivated by other men. And impressing other men and stuff. I did struggle with some of those parts of the movie, but I feel like, again, like I said, like that's where you just have to like suspend disbelief and be like, this is a movie, this is fun, this is not real life. Like, because it was irking the hell out of me that he did not tell his wife and that he was lying about what he was doing.
And that's what makes it seem like, I mean, okay, so this could teeter both ways, right? Like they were together 19 years, right? That's what they kept on saying. So to be with someone for 19 years and then to say like, hey, I actually kind of like dancing and this has been something really fun, to hide that from your partner is shows that you have some kind of distrust in them to like feel as if they're going to judge you. And then there's the other side of it, which I believe is the main reason why he didn't say anything, is because he was attracted to Jennifer Lopez. He was attracted to Paulina, and and then he kind of like found himself in this little like weird community. But I think you and I are both people too who really value honesty, and I just don't understand why anyone would keep that hidden, even if he wasn't attracted to Jennifer Lopez. Let's take her out of the equation, and maybe it was just Mitzi and Bobby, right? And that it like was completely platonic. But like his only motivation to hide that from his family would be because he would be afraid of being made fun of by his family for being a man and liking to dance.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think so. Another good point that interview pointed out was that Susan Sarandon, like, I forget if the interviewer asked her, but like Susan Sarandon talks about like the fact that, she gets the private investigator and, thinks he's having an affair, but then doesn't want to believe that also. She's like, well, he could be doing something else. Like, I want to know where he's going and stuff. It doesn't make sense. But she never straight up asks him either. Like, that's a big step to take, like, of like, okay, your husband is not accounting for time, and then you've kind of done some like, oh well, I called the office and you weren't there, and like, oh well, it's working in someone else's office and blah blah blah. And to go from like being like, okay, this is weird, to being like, okay, I'm gonna hire a PI, versus just being like, hey, that doesn't make sense, where are you going? Like, or doing a little PI work yourself. And
that's what I thought. So if this movie was to be remade, no way would a woman hire a PI. We have way too much
generation.
Yeah,
too good.
In this generation, we have way too much information right at our fucking fingertips to ever need a private investigator. I mean, like, girlfriends just having each other's back in the way that like you say, oh, I'm dating someone new, and they put in their name, they can like pull up the whole like Rolodex of information about that person. Yes. But I found that interesting too. But I did totally wonder that too, of like, before you even pay the $2,000 or whatever it costs to like hire a private investigator, you could just ask and say, hey, you've been coming home late. I wash your clothes. They smell like perfume. And I want to know what's up with that. Like, or like, hey, I caught you in this lie about staying, like the reason why you're staying
late. Yeah.
Yeah. So if and that was one of my thoughts, was that the characters, like the private investigators, as much as I love those two actors, Richard Jenkins and Nick Cannon, they were kind of removable. If she had just asked and he lied, but then she continued to like do her own PI work and follow him around, and then end up at this dance competition, and he just so happens to catch her eye in the crowd, still could have had the same exact outcome if they had taken those characters out.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder why they felt the need to have the private investigator then. Yeah. But I just want to go back to say that Susan Sarandon points out that it's Beverly's insecurity that doesn't want to ask, because she's afraid, what if he is cheating? Because then that's a whole other thing.
Totally.
But plus, I think it's different to have someone else figure that out for you, versus like you asking, and or have him lie to you some more to your face. That would piss me off even more. Yeah. Like, I asked you and you lied to me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I totally get that.
Yes, absolutely. But there also are some beautiful moments, I think, in this. And another thing, so there's this amazing quote from Beverly Clark where, she's talking to the PI, and he's like, why are you married, or what's the point of marriage or anything? And I was like, damn, But so she says that, we need a witness to our lives and that there's a billion people on the planet. I mean, what does anyone life really mean? But in a marriage, you're promising to care about everything, the good things, the bad things, the terrible things, the mundane things, all of it, all of the time, every day. You're saying your life will not go unnoticed because I will notice it. Your life will not go unwitnessed because I will be your witness. And I feel like that needs to be in marriage vows or like,
Yes, that
because
sounds like some vow shit.
yes, I think it's a beautiful way to put it. And I'm not big on marriage, but like that makes some sense to me. Like, I'm not big on marriage in terms of like what I feel like most people think of it as, but like the romantic in me, like this is what I think marriage should be like. And she even says, she has a friend that was like, well, I'm single, so that doesn't apply to me. But she's like, no, that's not true. Like your friends and other relationships, like they're witnesses to your life and stuff like that. And I was like, damn, that's me. But yeah, so I think those are our issues with the movie, but also things we're willing to be like, you know what, for the movie sake, it's okay. It all works really well. And I think the cast definitely really, really helps with that, because if you had like side characters, like if a lot of these side characters were actors we didn't hear from again, never heard of, you'd probably be like, this is okay. Like Susan Sarandon,
but
Richard Gere, and Jennifer Lopez were great.
But because these side characters were all people that we've seen in other movies many times, it works. And something that Ebert said, which I agree with, is that they had enough screen time for them to develop in some way that you were either rooting for them or rooting against them.
But okay, so we've done a good justice to everyone else in this movie, but the reason we watch these movies for this season is none other than Jennifer Lopez. So let's get into her role.
So I needed an extra day to record for this because I wanted to make sure that I understood the assignment, because yesterday when I had talked with Bria about this, she had said, I have some opinions, which got me thinking like, oh, should I have some opinions? So I'm really glad I took an extra day on it, because I think there were a lot of new things that brought to light. We can absolutely start that conversation by talking about Jennifer Lopez. So her character is named Paulina. She is a dancer at Mitzi's dance studio and has a bit of a history in that she was competition material and was entering herself in and her former partner in these competitions, but her partner cheated on her, and then she felt really heartbroken. So I'm curious to know what you thought, Bria, because I really feel like this is so different from other Jennifer Lopez roles. You made a face. Please.
Yes, it is. It absolutely
it's really
is.
Different.
I feel like this is the first time we get like a really like bitchy, stoic, not that.
Yes.
So I was thinking about it, and yes, wedding planner Mary Fiore is very like type A, very busy, but she has this softness to her. She like plays Scrabble with her dad and his friends, and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of other like bitchy roles. Angel Eyes, like she's this tough cop,
hard cop,
but her backstory, like the reason why she is the way she is like her dad and her family and all those issues. U-Turn, where she also is like abused and has these family issues and stuff, but like there's always a like redeeming like little like ray of like something in them, some stronger than others. But this one, for a very long time throughout her playing in this movie, longer than I expected, I was just like, damn, like I did not like Paulina for a good chunk. I was just like I see you, J-Lo, like obviously we have grown to love her, but like damn, like I did not like your character.
Yes. I am so glad. Okay, I am so glad. You and I share very similar thoughts because Jennifer has danced or had some kind of dance sequence in almost every movie that we've seen her so far, whether it's like dancing with Jack Nicholson in Blood and Wine or dancing with
the maids in Made in
Maid
Manhattan.
in Manhattan and in Money Train with
Wesley Snipes.
Jinx, you owe me a soda. I'm just kidding.
Tons of amazing dances in Selena.
Thank you. And in Selena. So she has had, and a lot of this probably has to do with her previous history as a dancer. She has a lot of little dancing roles in this movie, or just in general in all of the roles that we've seen. And so for her to have a movie where her main job in this movie is to be a dancer, I'm really glad that it's different because with Jersey Girl being our last movie that we talked about, and then before then Geely, where well, no, not Jersey Girl, but definitely with Geely, the main purpose of her character is to be some kind of like sexual lust. And Richard Gere was definitely attracted to her. I think that is, there's no doubt beyond that. It's hard not to be, right? Like she's so, we talked about this. It's hard not to it's hard not to sexualize her. She's so incredibly fucking beautiful. Yes, she's a dancer in this movie and she dances and she catches a twinkle in the male gaze, but her demeanor is so different. She's hurt, she's unconfident, she's stiff. And I personally, I don't want to say unlikable, but she's just not, she could have easily been a character where she was similar to Gigli, where she was oozing with sexuality, and she could have taken Richard Gere by the hip and done that same exact monologue of like, and then you leave her because she like what is it? She like ruins your life, right? Or it's whatever the line is. Like she could have easily done exactly what she did with Gigli in her monologue, where she's talking about the vagina and she's doing yoga, and have it be this incredibly sexual thing, but she doesn't. She does it in a stiff way, and she's not teetering on that edge of being the manic pixie dream girl. She's this unapproachable, not love interest, but this catalyst for the protagonist to like want to get his life together. Because it wasn't until she writes him the letter to be like, I'm moving, but you helped me realize that like dancing is fun, and you brought like the love back into dancing and da 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 da, because she was so jaded by her previous relationships, right? So like
jaded.
He almost opened her eyes, and then she told him, and that to which opened his eyes. So it's a very, very interesting character dynamic that we've never seen before.
This is the epitome of that saying, like sometimes people are brought into your life for a reason or a season, and they very much were brought into each other's lives for a reason and a season, but they both had an impact on each other.
Yes.
I feel like this character is like quintessential just RBF, like, you know, in terms of her not being very like welcoming and open. And I'm sure too, like in some sense, she knows that she is sexualized by the other men taking this course, or like a lot of the students taking courses, because Bobby very much is like, oh, you guys probably thought you were going to be dancing with her, and she calls her things like, you know, I think like superstar or something like that. It could be an opportunity for her to be like, kind of like, okay, she's not that bad, but you're like, God damn, you're a bitch. And like when Bobby spills like her pasta on her jacket, and she's just like all worked up about it, and you're like, it's a freaking jacket, like it'll be okay, like it's not the end of the world. And it's not that she like had a big overreaction, but you could tell she was like, just like, oh, like, you know, don't worry about it. I'll fix it. Like and you're just like,
she's very type A.
Yeah, she's kind of like more, a stick up her.
But more but I agree, but more type A than wedding planner.
Yes. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I think they're probably the same level of type A. It's just like, again, she's jaded. She's hurt,
yes,
like
and
all these things.
Yes, exactly. And I think that she really, what we know in Wedding Planner and Maid in Manhattan and her other kind of like romantic style roles, her character comes with a certain level of confidence. I didn't see that level of confidence in Paulina. Yes, she was
I think dancing, and that's it.
I think she was confident when she was like teaching the boys how to dance, like when Miss Mitzi was like absent or whatever, and so she had to be the substitute teacher for that day.
Yeah.
I could see her knowing that she had enough leverage to have the confidence there. But like there were times where we would see a little bit of window into her dancing alone, where she was like making these turns and watching herself in the mirror and getting like so up in her head about whether it was her physical appearance or her formation or dancing critique. I don't know, but she lacked a confidence piece, a cockiness piece that we've seen in other roles.
Yeah. And so I noted, like, watching this movie, I was like, damn, who hurt you? And then I was like,
yes, well, of course. She's so hurt in this movie.
But so in my question is like, damn, who hurt you? J-Lo. And then, you know, snarkily, I was like, Ben Affleck.
Yes.
And
so
part of me is like interested if this role was interesting to her because of like what just happened. But I think this movie, of course, came out after they broke up, but I want to say she filmed it maybe prior to them breaking up, but maybe they were on the rocks. I don't know.
I'm shaking my hands like a goddamn little bird fledging the nest for the first time, because I also thought about that too. That we like, because I was like, who hurt you? But I was like, she's almost playing as if her like real life and her personal life was affecting the way that she thought about this character, because obviously I didn't watch any of the behind the scenes or the director's cut or whatever, the commentary on her character in particular. So her character could have been something that was completely different, but because of what she was going through in her personal life, that she like took it there to a personal level.
Ooh, that's an interesting point. If this was intended to be like that kind of character, because you would think so that's where too watching the original I feel like would have helped too.
Yeah, but I think to your point too of like the cultural piece, I think just after watching the Japanese trailer and the American trailer look almost identical shot for shot, but I think that culturally these movies are two different things, which Ebert did talk about a little bit. But yeah, I don't know, I didn't think she was bad. I just think that it was really different. And
that's what makes it really good. Like, this is a really impressive performance to me. Yeah. Because it was it wasn't what I was expecting. It was so out of left field, and it was done so well. Like, I know I like you as an actress, and this is why I'm here, but god damn it, I don't like this. Yeah. Play someone I can root for. God damn it. Like, why are you doing this to me?
So did you find like you were rooting for her?
Paulina?
Yeah.
I mean, I was rooting for her to not like sleep with with John Clark. Like, I was like, okay, thank you. Because that's where I thought that was going.
I was rooting for her more, and it's funny because I really liked Bobby's character, Lisa Ann Welter, aka Chessie, but I almost felt like the movie would have served a better purpose if that character had a smaller role, and let's say maybe, I don't know, I felt the only thing that really took me by surprise, I thought that she was going to like twist her ankle or hurt herself before the competition, leaving the only available person to dance with Richard Gere would have been Jennifer Lopez. That like the two of them who had like chemistry that almost made sense for them to dance. But then that would have changed the whole outcome of his wife and daughter coming in to watch that final performance piece, right? So yeah, that leaves me to my ending piece, which is one of my biggest complaints about this movie, is that John Clark gets the best of both worlds without any consequences. He gets to dance He gets to dance with Jennifer Lopez before she goes. He gets to keep his wife and then persuade his wife to like do dancing lessons or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no consequences. And I could have seen it for both ends because there were things that I picked apart too where I was kind of rooting for John Clark's character, where like they were gardening out in the front after he had been busted and his daughter's like, why'd you stop dancing? You're so good at dancing. It's like, because you guys were kind of assholes about it. Like you went to his competition, you threw him off his groove, and then you never like had this follow-up conversation. Like you kind of tried to sweep it under the rug. I don't know. That was the last like 15 minutes of this movie, I felt could have really done with some tweaking here where they would have followed one plot line rather than like having 3 different scenarios where John Clark ends up winning all of them. Does that make sense?
Those are great points. And I think, again, this is where I've come to like that understanding of like, you gotta just let a movie move. Like, because in my mind, my counter to that is just like, I don't know what consequences you would give him, because I feel like his wife leaving him would be like a huge, like, really? You're gonna leave your husband? Like, if you, okay. And another a question I had is like, would you be upset if your partner kept like some kind of hobby or some, very menial secret from you and was lying to you about it? And like, I feel like the obvious answer is yes, but then like also it depends on what it is. Do you want to tell your friends you're getting a divorce because your husband was dancing secretly behind your behind your back, not stripping or anything, no magic mic, but something that like where it's like, that seems innocent. Like, even the private detective's like, look, I've seen a lot and like, you don't have anything to worry about. Like, he's legit just taking dancing lessons. His teacher's not attractive. Like, there's nothing there really besides Paulina, but he's like, I'm not going to blow this thing up because she's kind of there, but not really. Like,
and I can understand now thinking about it where the interview you were talking about with Susan Sarandon of being like, that's her being in her own head about the whole thing, because I would do the exact same thing. If my partner was lying about something and I caught them in that lie, let's say infidelity aside, because that's absolutely inexcusable in my book. But like, let's say Kevin was taking up ballroom dancing and he was doing it and he was lying about it, and I knew that he was ballroom dancing and I knew that he was lying about it, I would feel more self-conscious about, why is he lying? What am I doing wrong that he feels like he can't be honest with me? And I think a lot of people can probably relate to that too, which, not my, that's like a whole, that's a conversation for my therapist. But I think that too, like, either way, they missed the communication mark. As a couple who's been together for 19 years, you would think that there would be some kind of trust in there. The lying piece is what gets me. It's not so much the hobby.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know, as we kind of like pick apart the plot, there were some things that I did really like. And again, I give this 3.5 solid pumps of butter. I really liked the music of this movie. And maybe it's because it was like a slightly Broadway classical feel to it, but the scene where we first see Jennifer Lopez, where Gere is riding the train home from work, and he looks out the window. It's this gorgeous like montage music overlay that I personally give a chef's kiss to.
Yes. I looked up the end song. I was like, who sings this? Because I was like, is this Sting? Who is this? It's Peter Gabriel. But I was like, okay, I see you. I see you, music director.
Yeah, no, I felt like the music to this was excellent, that they had a lot of really good musical overlays. I thought the Ja Rule choice was extremely interesting.
I feel like J-Lo pulled that, like, let me call Ja real quick. Like, let's call Mr. Rule.
Movies just gotta move, and I think that's fine. Did you have any like special connections to this movie or special connections to any of the characters?
No, besides like Honestly, John Clark and Beverly Clark's like house and life is like legit goals in my book. Like I love that aesthetic. Like their home is so
Mm-hmm.
homey and like one of
Mm-hmm.
those country kind of upstate looking houses, same as his house in Unfaithful, kind of like that kind of that shit's like that's goals. That's what you watch movies and want, you know, to have. And for this movie to have that and then be like it's still something's not enough, like it's not enough for him. I think that's a very human and common issue.
Mm.
That's why people say money can't buy you happiness, you know?
Yes, and I'm glad you said that because something that I related to on a personal note, a secret passion that you carry that you're too scared to show the world, a la Through the Eyes of Stanley Tucci. And also feeling ashamed of wanting to be happier when you already feel like you have enough, when you have so much. To me, on a personal level, I feel mad at myself for wanting happiness when I feel like I already have an extremely great life and I already have a lot of great things going for me. But yet, there's some times where I wish I could be happier or things that I do want to pick apart, but I feel like it's not fair for me to do that. And it just goes to show you that you can work that. I'm guessing if you're a lawyer, you work like crazy long hours, but like
Yeah.
to have a house with two kids, with a wife that you love, but you both work full time and maybe you're a little bit out of sync. Like, of course, you love each other. You're not out of love, but you just, there's something missing in your life. To learn how to not feel guilty about that. I feel like that was what John Clark's biggest thing was learning to feel okay with wanting something more and figuring out what that something more is.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is that like I relate to that, but in a very different way because for me, I'm single. I've been single my whole life. And that's like that too is a caveat in itself. Like I was just talking to my great nephew's mother, Brielle, shout out. And she was like, you know, the typical like you're single, you don't have kids, you don't have all this stuff. And then we were talking about like my closet and clothes and stuff. And I was like, I have all this shit because I don't have relationships and I don't have that stuff. It's like me feeling in those like gaps of like I don't have someone to do mundane things with and sit in the quiet and all that stuff. It's like no, it's like to occupy my mind. It's like okay, find something to obsess about, find something to shop, find something to buy, like. And where to Ari Lennox, you know, your furniture is not going to teach you how to Dougie. It's not going to teach you how to roller skate. You know, you need people in your life. And I feel weird to be unhappy in that sense because I feel like I have all that extra time or whatever to like that's my fear of being in relationships is not being fully okay with who I am to be with somebody or having kids is to not be in a place where I feel like I could be the best parent possible. And I think that's hard. And I think that's part of overthinking for me is just like, there's never a perfect time for all that stuff. You know, I have all this time to like get some shit right that maybe some other people like rushed or didn't have time to figure out because they started families or whatever. I just, like I said, I think it's a human, very human problem. And we can cut this deep ass therapy session out.
Well, listen, I think the point is that this movie is way more meta than what we had anticipated it to be.
Yes.
And I think we got out way more than what we had originally anticipated. This movie made me think a lot more than the other like rom-coms or romantic leaning movies. But I agree that we don't have to, we can just take movies for what they are and just let them be what they want to be. It's okay that this movie's predictable. Honestly, it's okay that like John Clark got the best of both worlds where it's not he doesn't win the competition. He ends up really foiling it and gets in his own head about whether or not he's meant to do this or if this was a mistake. And at the end of it, I mean, sure he could be attracted to Paulina, but I think he ends up finding out that there was something missing in his life and he couldn't pinpoint it before, but now he could, and that this was something that made him really happy and that he can share that passion with his wife now and that they can take lessons together. And so it's okay that he gets the best of both worlds. I don't feel like there is any unredeeming qualities. It just like on a quick note, I just felt like he gets everything he wants. But you know, that's your happily ever after for you, and that's okay.
I think it could have been way more happier, and I feel like it's a decent, like realistic kind of happy. Like he could have won the competition. Like you said, he could have danced with Paulina. Like there are things you could have like ramped this up where it's like
should Beverly had come to a practice or an audition and had seen him earlier and called him out on it, but then he decided to go to the competition and she's there and they're cheering him on and he ends up winning. Like there could have been other scenarios that have happened. This one, for whatever reason, it just felt like there were some strange loose ends, but I'm also not mad at it. And I did enjoy it, even though Jennifer Lopez, her character, fell a little flat. So, and I feel like this is a good segue to talk about our segment about the trailer, because Jennifer Lopez's second build before Susan Sarandon.
Really?
And you know, if you look up the Google image search of what the poster of this movie looks like, we have Gere front and center, and then we have Susan and Jennifer, and
behind him on the sides.
Correct. And the wind beneath his wings, the angels on both of his shoulders, that it makes it seem like they have equal billing, but their characters they have different amounts of screen time. And I don't know, I thought the choice of putting Jennifer Lopez's second build was a little bit more interesting. So I feel like we should segue into the trailer. And then if you think this holds up to today, and if it was to be remade, what would you do?
So the trailer, the notes that I like, what I remember is that it definitely makes it seem like what the kind of movie you think it's going to be is like this guy sees this hot dance teacher, starts taking dance lessons. It's really hot. It's really sensual, sexual tension, and all this conflict and whatnot. And that is not the movie that is. So props to that professional ass edit of those clips and the montages, because baby, did you sell this movie to people who thought they were in for that kind of journey. And it doesn't really give away the whole plot either. So props, we're getting out of that territory of movie trailers of being like, I didn't even need to watch this fucking movie. Like there's lots of dance montages, but the way they show them aren't in context to how they happen in the movie. So that helps a lot. I feel like I like this movie trailer. I definitely think that this is a movie trailer that I would have seen and be like, oh, that looks like a cute movie, and would want to see as an adult currently. I'm surprised I never watched this before. It's again one of those movies I see on TV but never catch it at the right time. Just like our next movie, Monster-in-Law. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the trailer.
In my opinion, I feel like this is a bit of a misleading trailer.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I'm not mad at that. I think that I'd much rather have a bit of a misleading trailer that gives me some mystery and intrigue rather than telling me the entire plot of the movie, including how it ends within a minute and 30 seconds or 2 minutes, however long trailers are. But we did talk about, one thing we noted in our notes was that this trailer made it seem like Jennifer Lopez, they use her as bait. They make her seem like she's a much bigger part of the movie than she actually is. And they don't, I almost feel like it would have behooved them a little bit more to have included a little snippet of like the private investigator, or like Susan Beverly's character wanting to do a little bit of background and digging on what her husband's actually up to. But again, I don't know if it's because they were trying to mock the original trailer. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, I thought that the trailer was fine, and I'm okay with having it be a little bit misleading.
I was gonna say that the private detective, I feel like, would have ventured into like, okay, we know the plot of this movie.
Yeah.
But I think if you very carefully just put like a clip of Susan Sarandon, or like even the daughter being like, you know, dad seems like different lately. Like that is enough where it's like, oh, this isn't as quite as, you know, clear as we think it might be, of just like this guy having this amazing time with this hot dance teacher. I have a question for you. So my question to you is, do you think Jennifer Lopez is that kind of star where she can have her name attached to something or be involved in something, but very minimally, and have it be interesting because she's in it?
My follow-up question to that question, are we talking 2004 or 2021?
I think both, because I think that she's bait in this trailer. Like,
Yeah.
I think they're definitely using, and the fact that you said she's second build, like, to me also spells that out.
I think you're right. I think Jennifer has enough that she's big enough in both 2004 and now to get smaller roles. Maybe not as bait, but just as to be like, oh shit, like she's in this movie. But I don't know. I think that this movie still could have worked even if like they really didn't show too much of Jennifer Lopez in the trailer, but it was mostly about Gere doing his ballroom dancing and like Susan and their marriage, exactly. So I think that definitely could have worked. What do you think about this movie being made this year? Like if you were to remake this movie, what would you change?
I think he would be motivated by quarantine somehow, and
like their marriage was like falling apart, or like just a little stale. It was a little stale popcorn during the quarantine.
Just being in the house for a whole year, working from home, fantasizing about getting out, fantasizing about things like you've always wanted to try but never got to do, and thought like, shit, I could have died this year, and I never pursued this ballroom thing, or whatever. Obviously, just make Chick gay, like outwardly gay. He does not need like some weird come out moment that is weird.
Totally. And niche the homophobic jokes.
I don't think Stanley Tucci's character needs to be as worried about like his masculinity and acceptance and people judging him. But I mean, that still happens. I mean, especially depending on like how you grew up and stuff. So I won't say that's completely like not in touch with today, but like
just
maybe he's metrosexual and there's a hint of that, but you're like, people were like not quite like, no, he's not gay, but like he's very like well put together and well groomed, and he ballroom dances, that makes sense. Like
that and the fact that Stanley Tucci brings a little hint of flamboyancy to almost every character he plays.
Oh, absolutely.
And so the fact that he's supposed to be this like hard ass lawyer that's like, I'm not even gay, but I love dancing. It's just like I thought that was funny, or ironic in that way. But to that point, like it still holds up. Like there's certain things that people feel kind of like, I mean, race and gender identity are two very different things, but just the fact of like holding a certain card, right? Like there was like, oh, my masculine identity, my poor male fragile ego is at stake here.
Yes. What else would I change? I would ixnay the children for the most part. Definitely get rid of, I'm okay with getting rid of the PIs. Poor little Nick Cannon's character, I thought he was pointless. And then I also like initially seeing him, I was like, he is miscast. Like, what is he doing here?
It was very interesting.
A lot of your kind of answers to some of the questions you had, like having Susan Sarandon be more inquisitive and scope stuff out on her own and show up on the dance competition by her own volition, and not the daughter being there too, and stuff like that kind of stuff, I think. But also, I think it's if this is very true to the Japanese movie, or very close, I think that says something as well, to not completely just redo someone's movie, but hold true to the intention and meaning. Sorry. Those are my things. I do think I would like to get back to some of these types of movies, these like casual, less serious, fun, kind of heartwarming movies versus a lot of the other stuff we have right now. I always say that. And I said only did Wedding Planner, that I believe Matthew McConaughey and J-Lo are onto something, that we're in a time where we might need more rom-coms and some happiness and just, to zone out in the movies and not see life reflected back at us in its grim reality.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I feel. I would totally rent this from Blockbuster. If I could go see it in the theaters, I probably would. I would probably go by my damn self and be okay with it. And just be like, you know what? I need a little romance in my life right now, and I'm single, so this is how I'm gonna get it.
I love that. So, Bria, if you were to then rent this from Blockbuster and prepare a snack and cocktail spread, what would your choice be?
I thought about this beforehand for once and I typed it out. So I was thinking very much about the competition of it all. And they're in this like banquet hall, and there's like these little tables where people are sitting at, watching the dance competition.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I feel like champagne and like some cocktail weenies or some nice hors d'oeuvres would be appropriate for this segment of the movie. They do eat in this movie at like a local hole-in-the-wall diner nearby the dance studio. And Richard Gere does try to get Paulina to go get some Chinese food with him or some French fries.
Yes.
So I did think about those things, and Chinese food sounds bomb right now. I haven't had any in a while. But that was my thought. And for dessert, I'm eating whatever kind of cake Paulina got that fucking made her open up and be nice, like secret sauce, less bitchy cake.
Yes. I'm glad you said that, because that was one of my questions, because she starts to cry and she goes, I'm just hungry. And he's like, that's okay. I cry too when I'm hungry, and I cry for French fries. And what do you cry for when you're hungry? And she says cake. And so that was going to be my last question. So I will circle back to that, Miss Bria. But for me, my cocktail would be a pre-made cocktail called the Tango, which is gin, red grapefruit juice, and simple syrup, which is 1000% up my alley. And then my snack would be French fries. So, Bria, when you cry and when you're hungry, what do you cry for?
If I was crying because I'm hungry, and what do I cry for? I love cake too, honestly. I'm not a pie person. I like cookies and brownies, but I love cake. I've been missing out on the birthday cakes in the office and all the bad frosting.
The frosting that like tickles your throat when you swallow it.
I love like the sugary, grainy Crisco frosting from stores. Yes, give it to me. Yeah, maybe tacos. No, I wouldn't cry for tacos. Tacos are like a fun meal. Like you're like, ooh, tacos. Like you're pretty happy. No one eats tacos sad. God damn it. I don't know. Maybe, you know what? A pasta. I feel like a pasta, like a nice fettuccine of some sort.
Good answer. There's something that's so comforting about a big noodle and some creamy sauce.
Yes. And some garlic bread, like, yes, to sop up the tears.
You dab your tears with it like it's a handkerchief.
Also, props to John Clark for being one of those men who has a hanky on him, and J-Lo's just like, oh, that's very rare,
Yeah.
That's very gentlemanly of you. But yeah, what about you?
Well,
put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. If I'm sad and I'm gonna cry, I really love sweet. I love candy, but I am a sweet person when I'm in a good mood. So like if I'm like any kind of candy and cakes and something that's gonna fix that sweet tooth is gonna be something for me when I'm feeling good. So when I'm sad, I tend to reach for something a little bit more salty to pair well with my tears. But I think that I like what you said of, if I'm gonna cry and I'm gonna cry for something foody because I'm hungry, then I will definitely go for like a mac and cheese, like a good comfort pasta.
I will say now, thinking about that, like if I'm mad and crying, I'm eating bad food. Like I'm eating a whole bag of hot Cheetos by myself or a whole bag of chips, or I'm going to fast food and I'm getting all the bad things. Like I want a McFlurry, a large fry, like two filet of fish, like give it all to me and like make it bad. Like I'm punishing myself in a way. We're going to Taco Bell and ordering like 7 tacos and a burrito on the side. Like, so that's a different kind of answer. But yeah, if I'm like emotional, sad, pasta.
All right. Well, bring us home, Bria.
Bring us home. All right. Outro. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. I just want to take a moment that we have hit a very pivotal part of this process. I believe this is like our 20th recording.
Whoa.
Yes. We skipped 10. So I would like to kind of acknowledge 20.
Okay.
And then on top of that, we now have social media presence and we're trying to promote our podcast, and it's very much a labor of love. I'm going to do this shit whether people listen to it or not. A lot of people see my fucking Instagram stories and we do not have that many listens. So thank you guys for listening to this week's episode, and to the people who've stuck with us so far, please come back for another episode of the great value version of Inside the Actor Studio.
And shout out to all our OG BFFs out there who started following us on all of our social media platforms. We see you and we love you very, very much. And if you're not an OG BFF, you soon will be part of the Loyalists Blockbuster
Gang.
The Blockbuster Gang. And if you like us enough to stick around, please take another deep dive down this IMDb rabbit hole as we discuss Monster-in-Law next week.
Yes, and on that note, if you've got nothing better to do, go figure out a theme to watch a bunch of movies you've never seen.
I'm your host, Simone, and please subscribe to this blessed mess and leave us a like if you're into it.
Yes, and I'm your host, Bria, and it would be awesome for you to wipe off those buttery popcorn fingers and give us a review. And, just don't be a dick about it. A little constructive criticism, nothing too harsh. And on that note, this has been another episode of
Roll Call and